Hi, my name is Jamie Lynch, and you are listening to Eating Habits, my podcast about everything restaurants. I will explore the human element of the hospitality business, and I'll talk to the who's who in restaurants, explore their stories, and hear what's on their minds in the ever-changing landscape of the food and beverage industry. Hey there, listeners! Welcome to another episode of Eating Habits Podcast. In this week's episode, I catch up with my buddy, Gerald Sombright. You may remember him from his appearance on Top Chef Season 14, where we cooked it out together in Charleston, South Carolina. He also just got awarded a Michelin star for his work at Knife and Spoon down in Orlando, Florida. So mad props for that. And quick heads up, we had a little recording issue, technical difficulty with this recording. We lost a little bit of the footage, but it's still a great conversation, and I'm happy to share it with you all. So enjoy the show.
Hello, I'm Gerald Sombright, and you're listening to Eating Habits.
Right on. Hey, Gerald, thanks for joining me, man.
What's going on, my brother? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good now. So I've been wanting to have you on the podcast for a while now, but I figured I'd work out the kinks a little bit first before I got you on here. Let's start out. You've had a pretty big year, huh?
Yeah.
A year and a half ago, you opened Knife and Spoon down there. Fast forward, you just won a Michelin star. Dude, what's going on? You're on fire.
I think the pandemic really, we opened Knife and Spoon in the pandemic. So, opening a restaurant at any time is already a nightmare. Opening a restaurant in the pandemic is borderline insanity. If you want to name anything worst thing you can do, it's kind of crazy. Like when you think about the time that we spent and the energy that we placed into that restaurant, it's kind of as if you've opened the restaurant 3 or 4 times as you've gone through the process, from losing people to getting new people to retraining to working all out the kinks of opening a restaurant to the GM being the hostess because there's no hostess. Nobody wants to do those positions. So it was really eye opening. But that time really taught me a lot about what is important, like being able to spend time with family, being able to see my kids breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the first times in their lives. So it was a pretty eye opening experience for me, but it was also a really strange and unique circumstance as a culinarian because I watched the industry really change as a chef, and it was different post pandemic than it was before, and it was really hard.
I'm wondering what your experience is after that. So hit me. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I guess post pandemic. I mean, let's talk about pre-pandemic. You and I were opening a restaurant at the same time, running neck and neck for USA Today Best New Restaurant in America. I don't know what your business partner was doing, but I know he did something. But we came in second place to Tempest being first place, and the people that I've known that have gone to Tempest would almost say all of the feedback that I ever had was so positive that it almost felt as if we superseded the bubble. Like we were able to hit it out of the park at a time when people were just trying to hold on for dear life, which is a strange thing to say. It's a strange thing to be one of the best restaurants in the country at a time that the country is shutting down more restaurants than it ever has. So that was just a strange feeling and a strange experience to have. And then I guess post pandemic, I would sum it up to say when we opened the restaurant in the pandemic, we had 276 applicants. Post pandemic, we opened a position, and you're lucky if you get 6 people that apply for the job, and 2 of them used to be plumbers. They don't even have any business being in the culinary world. So it's just been a strange thing to experience. Everybody wanted to get back to work when there was no work. And then everybody realized this is not the work that we want to do. And I think that we as an industry did a disservice to everybody who worked in the industry and kind of dismissing them and letting them go because of the liabilities in our business, of the fact that it's hard to run a restaurant and stockpile money that you can just use to pay people even when they're not coming to work because the profit margins are so low, the stresses are so high, and the consistent amount of variables that you didn't think about are popping up every day. So I mean, even I was working in hotels, and they let some people go, a lot of people go, and that left a real sour taste in people's mouths. And they said, if I put this much effort into this industry and I'm this disposable, I never want to go back to it. So it was crazy.
Did you guys open Knife and Spoon like thinking, hey man, we need to win a star, we need to, you know, what was that like for you?
Well, we thought about, you know, you see like Vogue magazine was excited about the restaurant. You saw like USA Today voted it really high. Every publication in the city voted it very high. And then we had a service structure that we knew would buy us an audience with Michelin, right? We had the service structure. You got a front waiter, a maitre d', a back waiter, tiers of service. So we knew that Michelin would definitely be looking for those tiers of service. And we also knew that the guy was doing this inaugural year coming to Florida. And then when you look around the town, you're like, well, who would they give this award to, right? And then you can name off 10, 15 restaurants. When you look at certain cities, Miami, you probably can name off 30. But when you look at Orlando and Tampa, you knew that the talent pool or the caliber of restaurants was pretty small. So then when you look at your restaurant, I mean, the sourcing that I did in Knife and Spoon was insane. We ordered from a mushroom guy, a caviar guy, a oyster guy, the meat from 44 Farms. There's a guy who is at the docks getting us fresh fish, texting us every week. So once you look at just the raw product that we had was such a high caliber, that we knew that it really put us in the running for Michelin, even more so than James Beard, because James Beard is more chef personality driven than I would say like a cuisine driven. But it was something that we definitely knew. Once the conversation came up, we knew we would be a part of the conversation. You and I worked for Michael Mina. I worked for Michael Mina specifically to work for a Michelin star chef. And it's a strange, wild thing to think that I'm now a Michelin star chef. Like, because I did that experience just to have that under my belt, never thinking that I would be able to ever touch, 20 years we've been thinking about this, right? So we would ever touch it. We just knew that it was part of our career that would be looming over us to tell us how bad we suck, because we never achieved it.
Right. Well, you achieved it, man. So what does that feel
I know.
like? What's that feel
I mean, John Tizar texted me the next morning and was like, go get the newspaper. You're on the front cover of it, which is just kind of crazy. John Tizar and myself, I'm very proud. Like, John Tizar, architect, right? He designed it, but I was the builder and the resident of the house. So I was there every day, day in and out, making sure that everything was going well. And it was very interesting to see so much love from my local media, my local restaurant community, even the people, right? Like behind the scenes, you think. I had to tell my sous chef, I was like, yeah, you talk about like we could never achieve this because you work here, right? And you see like behind the scenes, and the struggles, and that the order didn't come through right, and they shorted us here, and this is the fifth time we've changed this product because they don't have it anymore. It just don't exist. And I said, but when you go out front and you sit down in the restaurant, you really realize you're having a phenomenal experience. And that's what it's about. You don't people don't need to see beyond the veil. You just need to make sure that when they cross that fourth wall, that they see exactly what you want them to see. And you do exactly what you do. Honest, true, pure, very impeccable quality of food. And that's something to be said. Nobody, I don't think nobody in Orlando is ordering from as many people as we are. It's a headache when you place an order, but it's crazy when you think about the food quality.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, congratulations on that. I'm super proud of you, dude. That's amazing.
And then there's also one piece to it that I haven't talked about is that as far as I know, first Black male chef to earn a Michelin star, which is also very crazy. There's the chef of Maiden in DC who kind of assumed the role after the restaurant had already won a Michelin star. But I actually did the groundwork, hired the people, trained the people, sourced the food, ordered the food, controlled the food costs, controlled the labor costs, was actually there from day one to create this program and to earn a Michelin star. Is pretty remarkable. It's pretty strange to be like, oh, there's no black men who's ever won a Michelin star, because it seems like it's 2022. That should have already happened, but it's also pretty remarkable to be able to speak to that and be able to think about like a younger version of yourself looking for faces like your own that stand at the top and what you can achieve because somebody's opened that door, which is cool.
Hell yeah, man. I'm super proud of you. So let's talk about that a little bit. Cause I did a episode of the podcast with my buddy, Greg Collier, in Charlotte. Right. You know Greg?
Yeah. I know him. I do know him. I love his restaurant.
Yeah, man. He's awesome. And he's a great dude.
He is awesome.
He is our warrior poster child for black chefs, right? Like
yes.
he is all about creating opportunities, pushing the role of black chefs forward into the forefront of people's kind of site and just putting out amazing products. I think he's got like 3 or 4 operations opening in the next year.
Yeah, yes.
Something fucking crazy like that. And I think he just had a baby too. Like he's like, this guy's like, this dude's just like, he's unbelievable. What are your thoughts about that? You as a young cook coming up through some of these kitchens. I mean, you've worked for, you mentioned Michael Mina. You've worked for some other super talented chefs, like really well-regarded guys. What was that experience like for you? Were there other black cooks, black chefs that you were working for? What was the experience like? Did you ever, imagine that you would be leading a team at this caliber, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that evolution is unstoppable, right? You know that you're going to eventually stand behind the piano, as we would say when we were younger cooks, and you think about like I guess in a certain sense in cooking, I never thought about my race that much, because I thought that once we crossed the threshold of the kitchen, I was just a cook. That's what was important to me, being the best cook in the building. That's what I was fighting for. Like, God dang, this guy on saute can bang, and I can't pick up as many dishes as him when I work the station, right? So I was always trying to get to that glory, to be. I really wanted, after. It's funny. I walked on Top Chef, lost first episode, but am highly respected by my peers in my industry, and I think that as I always say, I wanted the streets to respect me. Like the people who actually do it, who actually touch it, not necessarily the people who stand above us and say who's good, picking who's good or bad or can get certain accolades. And once I had that from all of my peers, I can pick up the phone in any city and say, hey, I need a place to drop my mise en place because I'm doing an event. I had felt like I made it even from that standpoint. So I never thought about my race in that sense. I did think about it when I was a young cook. And when I saw Patrick Clark, when I saw the first book that they made for Patrick Clark and heard this name and was like shocked that I was looking at Danielle and Joel Atunes and the brothers in France and Paul Bocuse and
those guys.
Yeah. Like I was looking at all inspiration was from French males or white males, but those was just the best cooks, the Charlie Trotters and the Thomas Kellers and all of these names that you heard. So I was always looking towards the inspiration of what was going on the plate. And then I heard about Patrick Clark, and it kind of shifted that I could speak to my race as well, which was just different. It gave me somebody to look up to.
Yeah, I mean, my experience like early on, like working for Michael at Aqua and Le Cirque and stuff.
Right.
If you earned a spot on the team, it didn't matter if you were black, white, Chinese, right. Like it didn't matter. Like if you were on the team, like if you could cook your ass off, that's all that mattered. Like if you weren't going to crumble on the line, you were good.
Right. Yeah. After they added 2 dishes to your station that day, you couldn't even do the 8 dishes yesterday. And they added 2 dishes. Like Jesus. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the fact of you tornaying vegetables on national television.
And then I fucking burnt them.
just like
It was like that. First I tornado shit out of them. They were perfect. And then I went over to the stove and burnt the shit out of them. It's like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Just went super classic. It's so funny, like being trained at a certain time, what comes out of you under pressure is just those classics. Like that's the same school.
Well, and and at that point, like, it's funny you mentioned that. I remember, we should talk about this a little bit. Like that first day, right, on Top Chef. Like, so I didn't know. I only knew maybe like, I mean, even for us, like the new jacks versus the veterans, right? The new jacks, I maybe only knew like one or two people.
Right.
Like I didn't even know them. I just kind of like knew of them. I was like, huh, okay, cool. All right, this is neat. And then walking into that kitchen, first of all, it's fucking huge. Right? Like, I walked in, I was like, oh my God, like where is the range? It's like over there. I was like, what? It's over there. Oh my God. And I was on that first station, like next to Tom.
Yeah, the farthest away it could be. Couldn't be no further.
I fucking rolled my pants up, dude. I rolled them up to my knees. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be a long day. But it's funny. So that first episode, right? We had to do the chicken, right? It was like, I think Tom gave us the chicken challenge. It was like as many dishes as you can come up with, right? We had like an hour to cook or something crazy like that.
Exactly. Aggressive.
What to do. And I remember the clock ticking, right? And I was like, all right, I'm going to break the chicken down first, right? Because I can just do that with my eyes closed. That'll give me a minute to kind of think about what I'm doing.
Right.
So I broke the chicken down and then just immediately was like, just tornado vegetables. That's like, I feel so comfortable doing that because I've done it for so long. I was just going to tornado vegetables and I'll figure out what to do from there.
That's where I'm starting.
What was going through your mind?
First thing was going through my mind was, where's the sanitizer? And I remember we was having this conversation backstage, like, how do I get to the sanitizer? And then the producer, she was like, trust me, you won't be worried about that. And I was like, it's just in my DNA. I can't not worry about that. Yeah. I need to sanitize my board.
Keep my station clean.
Exactly. And it was like, trust and believe, you're not going to worry about that. And you know what was going through my mind, honestly, as like a fool, was don't fry chicken the first episode. Because I wanted to do it right. Like I wanted to brine it, buttermilk it, and do the whole thing. So I was just telling myself, don't fry chicken. You got to save that for later. And I should have just fried the chicken. You know what I'm saying? Should have just been like, break it down, fry it, and make a side, man. And that's it. Be done with it. So stupid.
Yeah.
And all the people who have my fried chicken before is just like, why didn't you fry chicken? I'm like, Jesus, it's a 2-day process, man. Come on.
Well, listen, I'm glad that you brought it up because I was eliminated twice on Top Chef for cooking chicken.
Once was a pretty epic elimination. Like one time was like so honorable that it was like, yeah, I'm out, deuces.
Right. Well, I had to do something special so that people wouldn't realize that I lost on chicken, right?
Exactly.
Right. So let's talk about your experience kind of leading up to Top Chef, right? So you're from St. Louis, right?
Yeah, yes.
So you go to St. Louis. Tell me the story.
Pretty much I worked in hotel. I was doing all these odd jobs, like temp service jobs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I had always worked at like a Jack in the Box or like a food service place or like a fast food restaurant. And so then I got this opportunity to be like a prep cook / dishwasher at this hotel. And it was the first time that I had worked with chefs. And the chef, Doug Knopp was his name. He had this photo, black and white photo on the board of a man, like where the schedule was posted on the cork board. And I was like, one day I asked him, who is that guy? And he was like, I thought it was granddad. I thought he was going to tell some story about his granddad in the war, And he was like, you don't know who that is, kid. And I was like 18, 19 at this time. So he was like, you don't know who that is, kid. You need to find out before the end of the day and come back to me and tell me who it is. And I was like, Jesus, the man got real serious about a photo, right? So I go around the kitchen asking all these people, like, who is it? And so one of the cooks was like, that's Escoffier. And he was like, he's the great great grandfather of cuisine, like of the rules of cuisine. And so I was just like, man, this is pretty remarkable that this guy has somebody on his wall that's not his family member. There must be something to this cooking thing. And that day I just started asking a bunch of questions, and I learned everything I could from those first guys that I worked for. And they basically, several of them took me under their wings because I was so inquisitive and so like wanted to know, and I had another guy, Steve, who I worked for, Milstein, that gave me this book about Bernard Loiseau committing suicide when he thought he was going to lose his Michelin star. I was so enamored by the story that he bought the book for me. And then he was telling me after that, buy as many books as you can, learn as much as you can, but don't go to culinary school. So what he literally was saying, he's like, because they're going to steal your money and you're going to make hollandaise once when I can teach you how to make it every day. If the humidity's off, if the temperature in the room is wrong, add a little water, like all these things when you make it 1,000 times. And it was really kind of epic. I started there, and I think it's the only place in my career that I worked for 8 years. I started there as a prep cook and a dishwasher, and I was a CDC by the time that I left. In 3 years, I became CDC, and then I went to go work for Annie Gunn's in St. Louis, which is just an iconic James Beard nominated chef. I worked there in 2007, the year he was nominated for the Beard Award. So it was just crazy. He would come in and change the menu every day. You're like, dude, what are we doing? You'd be like, the menu just be hanging up on your station. You'd be like, are we doing that today? Like right now? Like we couldn't talk about this yesterday. So he was just going crazy. That place is an institution in St. Louis. Super high food quality. Once again, it really taught me a lot about sourcing ingredients. Several farmers. We had a butcher shop connected to the restaurant, so they ground the beef every day for hamburgers. It was just crazy. Just the most symbiotic, one of the most symbiotic places I ever worked, in the sense that the mashed potatoes didn't stay on the steam well after they was there for a certain amount of time. We made potato pancakes out of them. We never threw anything away though. We just always repurposed everything, and it was just super cool. And then I went to go work for Four Seasons because the first guys that I worked for said if you ever could work for Four Seasons, they care about their people and they get high ingredients. So you're going to see white truffles every day you work at the Four Seasons. And I was like, all right. It was like, we want you. You should have that experience of working with lobster a million times so you know what it feels like. From there, I went to work for Michael Mina at the Four Seasons because it was a great transfer opportunity. Then I opened the Four Seasons Orlando. And then from there, got this connection to open the steakhouse Oreo with the dry age program in house, and they was gracious enough to allow me to take 2 months off of work to be on television with you.
How long were you the CDC at Oreo before Top Chef came a knocking?
Man, crazy. Less than 6 months. It might have been only 3 months, and I was like super nervous to just be like, all right, pay me my salary and I'll see you guys in a couple of months. Like, a lot of us wasn't getting paid during that time. Some people was on Top Chef with us. Their jobs didn't do that for them. Whereas my job, to their credit, really realized it was something that was going to be beneficial for everybody.
Yeah. So how did the Top Chef thing happen for you? Did you apply for that, or did they reach out to you? How did that happen for you?
Crazy story. I applied, right? Every year I had a guy I was working with, food and beverage director. Even when we didn't work together for maybe 6 years in a row, every single time the Top Chef casting came out, he would text me and tell me to apply. And that particular year, for some strange reason, I don't know why that year, I was just like, all right, let me do this. I just had like this like moment where I was just sitting at home, and then I filled out the paperwork. Some kind of way, I don't know why this happened, I was filling out the paperwork in the wrong year. So then I asked my job, I said, can you fly me to LA so I can go do the actual casting call? And they was like, yeah, we'll fly you out to LA, pay for it for you, and go see if you can, throw your name in the hat. So I go out there, I go to the place that is being held at, and it's not happening that day, right? And so I'm like, this is the 28th, But on this thing, it say Wednesday, and it's a Tuesday or whatever. It's a Thursday. And so I was like, man, something's off. And they was like, no, the casting's happening here tomorrow. So I come back the next day, and then they was like, nothing like that is happening here. Lights off in the restaurant, nothing is going on. So I sit down and was like, what am I doing wrong? And I pull up the Top Chef link, and I was in the wrong year. So then I was like, oh my God, this is absurd. Like, I'm gonna go back to my job and just say, I'm sorry you paid for that whole trip, but I didn't even attempt to apply for it. So then I started looking at where the casting was being held that year, and I was off by one day at the restaurant. I was off by like 2 days at the restaurant. So I decided to go to this restaurant, Chef Susan's restaurant in LA, and I went around the back door. It was like 10 a.m. and I was like, I know somebody's here. It's a restaurant. So I went around the back kitchen and like startled the sous chef. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry to bother you, but was there a casting held here? And he was like, yeah. And when he said, yeah, he was like, he said it was a couple days ago, but chef is coming in. I was like, can she please get me in contact with the people who do the casting? And he was like, yeah, she'll be in later. So I went around the corner to Twamek, ate an omelet at Ludo's place, right? And just was like trying my best to like get my nerves together, you know, and I kept texting this guy, like, when's she coming in? When's she coming in? He was like, man, I'm so sorry. Chef is not coming today. He was like, it was a miss. She's coming, but I don't know what time. It's her off day. She always shows up. But today she got something to do. So I was like, man, this is crazy. I'm going to go back to work and say nothing. Right. So I was like, I looked at the papers that you like send the stuff to, and the address was in Hollywood. And I was like, man, I'm in Hollywood. Right. So I was like, I got in the Uber and went to the address on the building. And I pushed a button on the elevator, and they was like, sir, you got to get buzzed up, because it's like one of those situations you got to get buzzed up to magical elves. And I was like, Jesus, I was like, I have an appointment on the 11th floor, right? And the guys let me sign in, buzzed me in. And I got off the elevator in the lobby at Magical Elves and was like, I'm so sorry to bombard you guys' lobby, but is there a way I can talk to somebody from Top Chef? I was like, I'm from out of town. I was like telling the whole story. And the two casting producers came out the back, and they was like, 1,000% we putting you on TV. The one lady, Erin, she was like, I'm not supposed to say this. She was like, I love your boss. You just gonna come here? I'm like, what else was I gonna do?
Yeah, you're like, I came from past to be here. Like I came from a different year to be here.
Exactly. It was wild.
Oh my God. But I can't believe I've never heard that story.
Yeah, it's a wild story.
So, all right. So that was it, man. So you were like, wait, they're like, this guy.
Yeah, you know how they put your kit together, right? You know, like they gotta really like if they like you, they're gonna if they don't like you, they might sell you just because you'll hit a certain kind of like bad character or whatever. But if they really like you, they're gonna make sure that all your things look good so that when you present it in front of the producers, you definitely gonna get picked. Like I was shocked at how fast the interview with the producers was.
Do you have to go do like the whole group? You know, there's like, I don't know, 12 producers there, all like and stuff. It's like this crazy panel of people.
Yeah, crazy. It was crazy. It's like the worst job interview of your life, man. You go sit in front of 9 people.
Yeah, it's all the bosses.
Yeah. And they're like, nope. And they're like, okay, that's it. That was all we needed. And you're like, well, I didn't tell you about my dog when I was 12, you know.
I've been rehearsing this story, let me tell you.
Yeah, it was wild.
Oh, that's funny. I don't even really remember. I remember doing that interview, but I can't I don't remember any questions they asked me. It was all just like a blur. Do you remember any?
It was fast. It was super fast. I don't remember what they asked, but it was super fast. Erin prepped them with that story. So then they already heard that story. So it was pretty much sold before I even walked in the room. They asked me two more questions and said, go on with your life. I know they ate at your restaurant.
They did, yeah.
OG.
Yeah. So,
but Church of Union now.
Yeah. Actually on Facebook. She sent me like a Facebook Messenger thing or something. And I'm not very social media savvy. And I remember I like opened it up and I read it and I was like, man, this seems like a prank or something. I thought that Alejandro, my business partner, was fucking with me. I thought he had somebody send me like a thing, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, yeah. So I hit them up. I hit up Patrick and Alejandro and I was like, hey guys, I got this weird message. Like I don't know what's up. And Alejandro was like, no, man. He's like, I didn't send you that. He's like, you got to respond to it. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll respond. So I just responded back and said, hey, tell me what the story is. Yeah, I'm interested. I don't really know anything about it. And she reached back out to me and just said that a friend of hers had visited the restaurant in Charleston. They were doing the Top Chef episode or that season in Charleston. And she wanted me to try out for it. Would I be willing to do it? But my business partners were like, they're like, look, man, like, we're not going to tell you what you have to do or whatever. Like, you do you. But like, if you tell Top Chef no, like they called you and you say, no, I don't want to do it, you're fucking done. They're like, they're never going to call you again. Nobody's going to call you to do anything. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I was like, what am I thinking? I'm not going to tell Tom and Padman no. Like, that's like, all right, I'll try out. I did not think that I would get accepted. Like I thought I would go through the process and somewhere along the way they'd be like, whatever, this guy's this guy's a loose cannon or a nut job or something. But apparently I had the right bag of weirdness that they liked it.
Yeah, you did it twice.
I know, right? Oh my God. I wanted chicken redemption.
Glutton for punishment.
Yeah, exactly. So we're opening a restaurant in Denver, right? And our space is around the corner from the Thompson Hotel, where Ludo just opened Chez Maggie.
Right.
So, I don't know if you recall this, but Ludo was the guest judge on the episode where they booted me. So I went in there. For lunch. And I sat literally at the table by the pass where he was working. And I was mugging his ass. He noticed me and like it kind of like looked at me and then like kind of went to the pat. Like I could tell like he recognized me but didn't know who I was.
Right.
But he was like, I know this fucking guy. Who is he?
Right.
And so I don't know if he went and talked to his manager or whatever, but he ended up coming over to the table and was like, hey, what's up? He's like, I thought I recognized you. I didn't know what was going on. And we ended up talking. And I kind of busted his balls a little bit about it. He's like, I didn't make the choice, And yeah, I thought it was interesting how it went full circle.
That's awesome. That's crazy.
So tell me, so you got eliminated on the first episode,
right?
Oh, you went against John Tizar.
Yeah.
Well, how interesting is that you ended up
full circle
with him and winning a Michelin star with him? That's so
crazy.
bizarre.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow. So full circle. You and John Tizar in a sudden death cook-off first episode.
Well, that's pretty aggressive how they did that.
Yeah, and then he pulls out the bag of fresh black truffles. I'm pretty sure the rule stated that everything had to be preserved or
non-perishable. Yeah. Non-perishables.
Exactly.
I said, okay.
Yeah, I see how it is.
He slipped that one past him.
Yeah.
God bless him for being a veteran, man. That's why we were rookies,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you got booted that first episode. What was that experience like for you overall? I mean, first of all, like having to go into a sudden death, like quick fire elimination,
right.
But then also, being kind of voted off early. Like, what was that like?
Well, I never. It's funny. Like some people, some people who lost first episode kind of like fade away and feel like they never done nothing in their life, because they lost the first episode. I never felt that way at all because primarily because of relationships that I built, but also when they saying one episode is worth like 10 years of exposure in this industry, I believe it to be true. Like it's a real, being able to be on television is a real thing that can really get you to a wider audience. And I knew that I was going to be able to use the experience to broaden my horizon and my culinary network, really, in a huge sense of the word. So I didn't feel as bad as other people who got kicked off. Like, it didn't never. I kind of took it like it's all with a grain of salt, like, this is something you've never done before. 20,000 people apply for this every year. You got chosen, and
Right.
beyond a shot. I mean, I was shocked when they said my name because I knew I cooked a banging dish, but I was
Yeah.
like, all right, it is what it is.
You did like a Thai style oyster or
Yeah,
something, right? I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that.
Roasted over fire, man. Live
Yeah,
fire.
you were
Like, I would put the
sweating
blanket on
bullets,
the things.
dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was so hot out there.
Hot, hot. And it wasn't like they built the fire an hour ago either. It was
Yeah,
like fresh flames.
yeah. Oh, so let's talk about building those relationships, right? Because obviously that didn't happen on the show. So let's talk a little bit about that.
I mean, as everybody got kicked off one by one, they had to come home and see Papa.
Yeah,
And most of the
already
time, I
was
had
there
to talk him
waiting.
down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had to talk him down. Like, don't, you can't be mad. You can't be mad. I lost already, man. Let's go to the bar.
Yeah, right. It's like, hey, now you get to have a drink, whatever you want.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
Let me cook you supper.
Yes, and hash it out.
Right.
Everybody need to hash it out afterwards, right? You
Yeah.
need to be able to talk through it. Every single person. You got to
Yeah.
talk through it probably for about a week, before you can be. If I just did this, if I had just did that.
Yeah.
Everybody, it would unequivocally, literally every person, and
Yeah.
go through the same experience. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I met up with you guys, I think. So I made about halfway. So I think it was like the
Right.
seventh or something, like seventh
Yeah.
person off or
Same.
something. But I remember getting to the hotel, and the first night, I mean, I was pretty exhausted. It was late. But
Right.
but like, everybody's there hanging out, having dinner. Everybody's like super chill, like just coming back from the pool, like taking a dip. I was like, man, this is like fucking paradise over here. Like a vacation. Oh man. Yeah. So after Top Chef, go back to the real world. You've made a name for yourself. You're good. What was that like, returning to Florida after the episode and having to like reintegrate back into your job and into your community? Were people super supportive? Like, what was going on?
The craziest thing is knowing you've done something and then having to wait so long for the rest of the people that's around you to see it is pretty strange. You've had this experience in real time, and then other people watch it in the future with you. So we did a watch party for it, and it was super cool. Everybody showed me a ton of love. Thought that the words that I said and the way that I portrayed myself were pretty cool, which is probably great because I didn't get the opportunity to do something foolish.
Yeah.
So like, being able to have like that experience was it was eye opening, and it was also like very interesting how much that one little thing springboarded so many opportunities to go to Aspen, to go to Charleston Food and Wine, to go to the Kentucky Derby, to go to all of these food festivals in the country. It was pretty cool, to be able to like. I think that our season did this interesting thing to Top Chef that changed it from being camaraderie over competition. So you now see seasons from our season beyond where everybody is together, right? They do 3 events in a year, 4 events, and you see like that kind of wolf pack mentality from those relationships that were built. Because prior to our season, there was always a certain amount of animosity, that people kind of had a chip on their shoulders, and we all was the type of people that was like, "Oh, you don't have salt here, take mine," right?
Yeah.
We didn't
Yeah.
want to win. We didn't want to win if it wasn't fair. That just was the thing. That's just the way that we are as people. And I think that that's trickled down beyond our season.
Yeah, it's good to see some integrity in the competition. You know what I mean?
Right.
Although I would argue that Katsuji probably is still trying to sabotage the shit out of everybody.
I think
You
that
can
there's some
comment.
truth in that.
You can comment if you want to. You don't have to.
No. There's definitely some truth in that.
Yeah.
Definitely. What a
Yeah.
fool.
Yeah. So yeah. So what was that? So doing the watch parties, like seeing yourself on TV on a national, televised Bravo thing. What was that? What was that like for you? Were you guys at the restaurant? We had
Yeah,
Aria.
we did it at the restaurant. We did it in Aria and the PDR. It was strange. I don't want to stand there and watch it, obviously, because it's weird. Why do you want to stand there and watch yourself? Like it's you want to watch it like in the privacy of your own home, or like
Yeah.
to a certain extent, I didn't even want to see it, because you want to see how it came out,
Right.
versus like really wanting to see yourself. You want to see what the edit looks like,
Mm-hmm.
because you were there and you know what really happened. So you want to see how they translate that to the viewers, which is the coolest part, right? Like
Yeah.
it's cut, you see yourself walking down the street in Charleston in slow motion. You're like, that's pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? It's like, all
It was
right, all
decent.
right.
Were you happy with the way you were edited in that episode?
Well, Tom, yeah, Tom pushed for the whole like race thing, like he let me say about the blood of slaves running through my veins, and they tried to, they had some definitely some conversations about editing it out, and Tom was like, if you look at the whole season and unpack it, you can't take that away from it because it started this whole journey that was like time, place, race, food. Charleston is a very one of those places that don't shy away from its history. It's very present and evident that this is the history of this area, and I don't want to use the word celebrated, but they definitely don't hide from it, and it's
Yeah.
truthful and it's honest, and being able to incorporate that part of the spirit of the city, being able to be seen in the whole season from Edna Lewis to Rodney Scott. You see that it was unpacking something that started on the first day, which is just being a thread in the fabric of something bigger is important, and they let it air out that same way, which was so cool.
Yeah. I'm glad that they were true to that narrative too, because
Right.
I think you're absolutely right about Charleston, right? It's like you can't talk about Charleston without accepting that as being part of the history, right?
Yes.
Not that it's celebrated like you said, because it's not, right? It's like, but
Right.
it happened. Like you can't
Right.
deny it. And it's part of American history that we need to like
Right.
be real with.
Exactly.
So that's how you met John Tizar, I suppose, right?
That is how I met John Caesar. What a meeting!
Yeah.
What a
Man.
meeting!
So how important were the black truffles to the menu that you were preparing out of knife and spoon? Like was that like a
We all
staple? Was that like a staple?
we always had truffles, yeah, just to bust John's balls if nothing else.
Put some
Um,
truffles on it. It'll be good.
yeah, we I mean, I think I've been having truffles since that episode aired, just for the sake of it,
Yeah.
because I love truffles, but also because it's just a hilarious thing that every time I get a new truffle, I can tag John
Yeah.
in
Hashtag John
a photo.
Tizar.
Yeah, it was cool. I think that John is a very interesting person. Like we've been doing this job for 20 years plus. He's been doing the job for 40 years plus, which is just crazy. Like sometimes you sit around John and you tell his stories about food or food history, and he was present, or like things happened while he was a cook and a chef, like, getting getting 3-star reviews from the New York Times. Like that's something that I would look at when the food section came out every week, and it was very interesting. Like John was a part of the city at that time, so it's pretty remarkable to like listen to John. And for as much as like you have these like battles between modern or contemporary and then like super old school with John, it's also good to know where things stem from, and to be able to reference somebody who was standing there when it happened is just pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure John Tizar staged with Escoffier. So how
That's a good one.
how how involved was John working with you on the menu? I'm wondering,
So,
like, did you guys collaborate on a lot of stuff, or was he?
super involved, especially like initially there was, I mean, for one, it's a steakhouse. So the framework of a steakhouse menu is already set. We're going to have really good cuts, and then we're going to offer a la carte sides and raw bar and salads. Right? It's pretty par for the course. That menu was written 100 years ago. John Tizar's touches as far as his dishes that he wanted to have on the menu, whether it was like his crab that he does in the scampi style or his lobster that he does in like a spicy like lobster glace, and like all these things that John really want to have represented was on the menu. And then like from a sides, from a rotating specials, from a sourcing, was pretty high for me, right? Like if I'm gonna take John Tizar's food and be able to contribute to it, I was like, let's take the simplicity of these dishes, or the nostalgia from these dishes in some sense, and let's bring them to the 21st century by getting the best possible things, or making sure that they're as honest as they can be, because we're getting the best possible ingredients, which is undeniable, right? And then the stuff that's the most Instagrammable on the menu is what's mine,
Yeah, right. Yeah, the super tweezed out. That's awesome. So when you
That's a good one.
did you know that you were going to move on to somewhere else? Let's see, you were at Knife and Spoon for a year and a half, so right?
That's a great question. We purchased the first meat for the restaurant before the pandemic, sent it to Texas to be dry aged, and then like around the beginning of opening, we had 1 year old dry aged steak already. And somebody asked the question like, "How can you serve this steak 240 days?" It was 240, and it was like, and we was telling the story like we had it, we had already purchased it for the restaurant. So it was pretty cool, like a strange.
Sent that to Dallas.
Exactly. We dry aged it. It was bought with. We paid for it here. It got dry aged in Dallas, right? So, which is one of the beauties of having like multiple locations. But it was when I was quitting, I had this opportunity, and then I was like, all right, this is a quality of life opportunity, a job that I just was in Napa Valley for, I don't know, 6 days, and I didn't have to stress out about the restaurant, the same way you do in a different kind of environment. So
Yeah.
for quality of life, I was really looking at this role for quite some time. But I said to them, you can do whatever you need to do if you hire somebody before me, but I can't leave before this time frame. I'm not going to have done all this work and not accept my award, not stand on stage and say, like, I've earned this,
Yeah, the people.
which is just the right thing to do. And also to celebrate with the team, and also to
Yeah, the people that you guys have busted
yeah,
your
we
chops.
built something that's pretty iconic.
Yeah, how far of the awards did you know that you guys had won it? Did you know ahead of time?
Oh no, no. This is kind of wild. Michelin ate in the restaurant 2 nights in a row, which was the second night was the night of the awards. So the second night I was like, man, we don't win nothing. They not gonna see a steak, man. They food will take 2 hours, man. I don't care. But they ate the day before because they were staying at the hotel, and the awards was at the hotel. So we was in the building to some degree because of we hosted it at the hotel. Now they still didn't give you no. They said something at dinner that would make you. They was like they would just like be there. You should be there because John Tizar was at the table saying that he's so nervous that he might not even show up tomorrow. He like called me in the morning, said he in his closet like back in the day when he was participating too much in extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
So this man was like freaking out because everybody had told me that there was a call, right? So everybody's like, they usually call you before the ceremony. They call you, they call you, they call you. And they got all these videos of people getting this call. And then John was like, I didn't get a call. Like, I mean, this started at 10 a.m., no call. Noon, no call. 12:45, no call. 1:15, no call. I'm like, John. 4:45, no call. I'm like, John. I said, we don't got it, man. We don't got it. Forget it. We're just going to the ceremony. And then in the ceremony, I think they had like basically a time that they was going to release the results, right, from their PR company on behind the scenes. So in the ceremony at like 8:15, there was a press release released, and people saw it inside of the ceremony. So people just started coming up to us saying congratulations. But I didn't believe that. I said I want to see it. I'm not believing that until I'm on the stage with the star. And sure enough, we was only 4 restaurants in the town that got a star. No restaurants in Tampa that got a star, and 11 restaurants in Miami that got a star. And it was pretty true. It was pretty honest. Like the guy said, you pick these restaurants up, put them in Singapore, put them in Hong Kong, put them in DC, put them in New York, they would still win a star. They meet the criteria. They have been judged more than once. I cringe when you said that though, because one guy I knew was a Michelin inspector, but a couple. If we've been there 3 times, I'm like Jesus. Like that makes you like, oh man, because it's a restaurant. Some days you don't knock it out of the park. So you definitely know if it's a person asking the right questions, and you know that they must be somebody. But it was a person. For a few people, it was pretty incognito. We sat there and went through the process just like everybody else, and was like super ecstatic to receive that honor when it's only 3 other restaurants in the town that could say they have that honor. And Michelin, when they said that it would get a star anywhere, I believe that to be an honest depiction. Now the crazy thing is, if you put it in New York City or Chicago or these places, it's 100 other restaurants they got to go to, so you might be at the end of the list for them. They might not never even touch your restaurant because of the volume of high quality restaurants and the concentration. Versus like in a town like Orlando, it's very glaring where they have to go because of the level of service, the level of food quality. So I believe them to be telling the truth. Like it was super anonymous.
Yeah, that's great. So you only
Was
knew they were there for one of the dinners that they were eating there. You were aware that they were
yeah,
there. Other than that, you were unaware.
Michelin inspectors, we were unaware at all. It's just I had a hunch that one of these guys was this guy. But the Michelin executives, they ate at knife and spoon. And when they sent the emails, if you read it in between the line, it was like, we really want a table. If we can't get a table, it's okay. They were super polite. It was like the president of Michelin. And they
You
were
always get
awesome.
a table, man. You always get a
Right,
table.
right. It's like, come on, man. Then they ate after the awards while I want to go out celebrating. I'm like expediting their table, at the end of the night. I'm like, Jesus. John's sitting at the bar. I think he had a tear in his eyes, man. He couldn't even do nothing else. He just was looking at the star. And I'm like, man, I'm expediting chefs, tasting menus, Michelin's at 5 tables. I'm like, John, just sit down. Yeah. I want to just go celebrate with the city,
Yeah,
It was cool.
that's
It
awesome,
was super
man.
cool.
Congratulations, brother.
It was cool.
We're gonna end up talking about this all the time. I'm gonna call you up and just be like, "Tell me again about the star. Tell me about that."
Because it's all we ever want, right? We all want it back in the day, like those were the people that we was looking at. That was the standard for restaurants, right? I think James Beard is equally as prestigious in America, but Michelin is an international award, man. The Thomas Keller and Daniel Boulud's foundation mentor for the Bocuse d'Or, they
Mhm.
tagged us in a photo that night, like tagged
That's
my
awesome.
name specifically. It was like pretty wild, like
Yeah,
internationally, you just became recognized with the restaurants in the world, the few restaurants in the world that hold this prestige. So it's pretty. Those all these things like, does it really matter, right? All these people was writing all these things, and I was like, man, just let
uh,
these people celebrate. Like,
yeah,
let
yeah.
them have their moment.
Don't rain on my parade, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Does it really matter now because we got TikToks people that can come to your restaurant and blow it up? Like, yeah, that's cool, but nothing says that you hold the standard, right?
Right.
Nothing says that, and when you've done that work. Like we did that work and was
Yeah.
constantly doing that work. I did it the day that we won the star. I went
Yeah.
really literally right back to the past.
Yeah.
Like,
Put that apron on and get to it,
yeah,
chef.
yeah, yeah. Put this with the jacket on, the Michelin jacket.
Yeah. Like, don't get any sauce on it.
But we right, I'm still making sure people have good meals, And Michelin was like happy, like taking photos. They was like people was just coming in the restaurant clapping. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's great. So let's fast forward to these days. So you win the award, and now it's time for a little quality of life adjustment.
Well, after winning the award, it was crazy, the restaurant, like how busy it was. So like that was a big adjustment to go like adding 50, 80 reservations every single day on top of what you was normally doing. So that was a quick adjustment period and a time of like 86 and stuff. You like I had no clue it was gonna go this crazy. Like instead of getting 40 fish, give me 60. Like who would ever think that? So that adjustment period was pretty hard and heavy really fast. And then I took the job on the 29th was my first day. So I only took about a week off, maybe 5 days off before I started my new job. So it was they needed me to start. So I would have took more time off, but they needed me to start. So it was because it was so busy. Like I didn't know we was gonna get that bombarded. I thought that I would get an extra day off here or there, and before I took this job, but it just got crazy.
Yeah.
And I took this job literally because of the quality of life. We have about 4 or 5 months of the year where it's crazy. 4 months really in totality where it's crazy, and then for the rest of the time of the year, you can like I was off for 6 days and nobody batted an eye, right?
Yeah.
That don't really happen in the real food world. You have your challenges and troubles and problems, but it's a private membership. We get to know the people's palate. I think that that's kind of cool too. Like you get to know people and get to be able to offer them things that you just know that they're gonna enjoy because you seeing the same customers and you becoming a part of a community really.
Yeah.
Which is just a cool aspect of the culinary field that I've never been in. So it's great to keep growing.
So what are you responsible for now?
Everything.
You're at the Dunes in Naples.
Yeah, everything. We don't have shipping and receiving, so we do shipping and receiving. We do food costs. We do invoice coding. We even put in our budget the taxes for staff labor. Like we even responsible. That is even coming out of my budget. I've never seen that line before come out of a budget, right? So it's pretty remarkable. Like we touching really everything. And then I just changed the menu. I did an octopus niçoise salad, which is kind of cool. Like it's hitting everything. Like you're hitting the palette of all these things that everybody wants, but you're still making it kind of contemporary. We're working on building this real cool like pizza program because the club exists in a community. So I've been working on this dough for weeks, and now we got the dough dialed in, and now I got to get the pizza oven to cook it properly. And then we did all these cool names of the pizza, like Meat Sweats and Supreme logo for the Supreme Pizza, like the shoes. So like we're just doing all this cool stuff, like adding this verbiage and adding this value that's instead of buying it, we breading it. Instead of buying the chicken wings, we brining them, smoking them, and then we fry them or we grill them for you. Like we're just doing all these like it's good to cook really, really simple food, but with technique, right? Yeah. So you putting like a chefy technique on it, but it's a chicken wings at the end of the day, right? But they're so delicious because they went through 3 steps before they got to your plate. So that's the things that I'm working on, trying to really simplify like the technique in my head. And we also have like a ton of room to do like guest chef dinners, wine dinners. We do a big party every month where we're doing a whole roasted alligator this month. It's crazy. We do stuff that, and I'm just wrapping my brain around. The world that I was just in was for profit. And then this world is like, oh, we open just to lose money, but don't lose too much money. You're like, okay, all right. So last year we lost 3 million. This year, let's lose 2.5, right? So it's pretty crazy.
Nice. That's wild.
It's just different. It's so different. Like the way your brain have to think. It's gonna take me probably 6 months to even wrap my brain around it.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, listen, we've been chatting for about an hour. I know you got
Yes,
some
sir.
pizzas to figure out, so I'm gonna let you get back to it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for catching up with me, man. I definitely want
Yes,
to get
sir.
you back on the podcast. I want to talk about maybe some of the dinners that we did, cooking for Dave Chappelle, the Black Lives
at your place. Yeah, the dinner we did was bomb.
Yeah, and then I'd like to talk too about, maybe we'll circle back on the the celebration of Black chefs.
Right.
You and I did that tasting menu that was super fun.
Same.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Thanks for coming on and telling your story. And
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, brother, man. I'm super
Thank
proud
you.
of you.
I love you, my brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna come visit down there.
Yeah. We do something.
All right, take it easy.
Later.
Peace.
Bye.